How's it going, everyone? Javita here with an optimized leveling type video. This is going to mostly focus on the spec and maybe a few strategies to help you level as quickly as possible. So right off the bat, we're going to create a new character. Already got a name set up, so all I have to do is click the accept button. You can now choose whether or not you're going to import your Steam friends. It doesn't really matter at this point, and then pick your server region. This really shouldn't affect your experience too much, so just go with the recommended unless you're trying to meet up with somebody. You'll also have an option to start on either a tranquil or a hostile world. I would presume a hostile world might present a little bit more opportunities for gaining experience, but who knows. You could certainly start on a tranquil world if you don't want to have to deal with combat. So your first major decision will be picking a spot to land. Since we'll have all new planets, it's going to be anybody's guess where a good spot to start off would be. I usually like to start kind of right on the edge of a desert. There's usually some really good trees, and then the desert provides some pretty good mining opportunities. So we'll go ahead and just take that. And at this point, you might consider whether or not you want to go ahead and start another character. Presumably, we'll still be able to have up to 3 characters. So if you notice, when you're picking your warp location, it will list the coordinates down below. And so you can note those coordinates, go ahead and pop into the world so the tutorial doesn't reset. And now you could come over, return to Sanctum, and create a new character. And if you're fast enough, the coordinates where your first warp location was picked will still be visible from the planet. It'll probably look quite a bit different because it's shocking how fast the planet can spin around. But you should still be able to get pretty close. And you don't have to be exact, just, so you're within 500-ish blocks. It'll be very easy for your alts to find each other and help out. And the reason why you probably would want to do that is if you're going to make like a dedicated crafter, which you can comfortably get to level 10 on one character, but much beyond that, and you're either going to have to really divvy up your points between crafting and gathering, or just break down and split it between 2 separate characters. So there's kind of that. And I generally like to find a spot that has some nice exposed rock, has a few decent trees. These lustrous trees right here are particularly nice. But if you're very familiar with the game, there's kind of 2 ways to go about this. You could just basically ignore the tutorial and do what you want, or go ahead and kind of try to work with it. It will have you do some things that you're not really wanting to do or ready to do at the time, but you certainly don't have to do it if you don't want to. Just keep in mind that if you really skip the tutorial, it will kind of prevent you from completing other things later on. So probably a good idea to work with it to some extent, at least to get past the basics. So it's good to note on these chests that you don't actually get anything until it actually pops out and you see that +2 plots or whatever it is you're getting. So if you cancel out by hitting escape, you won't actually purchase anything until you get that far in the animation. So you can either use the quick collect to skip the animation, but for things like plots, you just kind of have to sit there and watch it. So if you're going for speed, you can certainly plop your campfire down just about anywhere. You will be safe from creatures at least until about level 6 or so. Optionally, you could also dig into the side of a mountain and just kind of turn that into your home. That'll give you a little bit more protection from creatures. Or you could just go ahead and live out in the open and slowly build up a house. That's a little bit maybe more time consuming, but the choice is yours, of course. Okay, so I just made my first crafting table, and a good thing to note is that this not only allows you to craft more stuff, but it also allows you to use bulk crafting. So pretty much anytime you craft timber and sticks, stones, pretty much anything like that, you could craft those things in your out of your inventory. However, you can't use bulk crafting, so be sure to take advantage of that, as you can use less resources to get the same amount. So you could come over here and do a whole bunch of singles, or you could do one bulk craft, get the same amount using less resources. So pretty invaluable to help you get started out. Another good thing to do is anytime it sends you to the crafting area, to go ahead and craft several totems. These are free and they do wear out eventually. So let's see here. Yeah, each one is good for 400 hits. So you can burn through your first totem pretty fast, but there's really no reason why to not have at least 9, because they all smart stack together. And if you're following along with the tutorial, I would highly recommend gathering quite a bit, at least maybe double of what they're actually asking for, just because the less time you spend running around just means you're going to move that much faster through the progression. And oftentimes you'll get done with one step just for them to tell you to go do something else that requires more of what you just used. So having extra is never a bad thing, at least until you fill up your inventory. So coming back over to our crafting table, we can use bulk crafting to fulfill the requirements of this objective. Of course, you do have to pull it out of the crafting table, but not really that big of a deal. And then it'll want you to craft your first set of wood gear. I would recommend only doing one of these because it won't be that long before you're replacing it with stone. So there's not much of a reason to use bulk crafting. So depending on how much gathering you've done, you probably have already leveled up for the first time. Come over and collect your rewards, and I'll probably push you over the edge if you're not quite there yet. And level 2 is very nice because it gives you 4 skill points all at once. Now we can start using skill points to speed up our progress. Normally I would just say go for Dexterity, as that increases your action speed, which speeds up pretty much everything as far as like using tools. So it speeds up your totem, your hammer, shovel, axe, it speeds up everything. However, you can also come over here and invest into power, which increases your damage. And I've actually found that, at least for the totem, you can put 2 points of power, and that will shave 1 hit off of using your totem for breaking things like rock and wood. So instead of taking 6 hits, it'll only take 5, which naturally speeds up the gathering process. In order to shave off another hit, you'll need another 3 points, which we don't have right now. So we can come over here and dump the other 2 points into Dexterity. The optimal amount of power, at least for early game, is 5 power that I've found. That will allow you to 2-shot rocks and wood with stone tools. So that is pretty much what you're shooting for, is 5 power, and then you can put the rest into Dexterity. And interestingly enough, if you're going to focus on a singular tool, like if you're playing in a group and you're going to be the miner or you're going to be the lumberjack, you could potentially come down here and invest into these masteries instead, which will give you both extra damage and action speed all rolled into one. So that's like both power and dexterity for 1 point. So that's pretty nice. However, it's locked to one type of tool. So if you're not playing in a big group, this probably isn't a very efficient way to go about it, but it is worth mentioning. Go ahead and confirm your selection. Come over here and grab some stone. Again, you'll probably want to grab extra stone because you're going to be needing this for quite some time to come. Also, you might want to consider saving things like ore, coal, and other type of resources together later when you have additional luck. Luck will allow you to get more drops off of each vein, but that's not really that big of a deal. So if you prefer, you can just go ahead and gather the ore now, but it's going to be a little bit before we even need it, and it's going to eat up durability on your tools. However, resource blocks do give extra experience, so comes down to personal preference. Once you gathered a sufficient amount of stone, you probably want to pick up a little bit more wood if you don't have enough already for a second crafting table. This will allow us to craft a whole bunch of stone on one crafting table while still having an extra crafting table for other things. Coming back over to the crafting table, you can craft some more wood timber using the bulk craft to save on resources. And come down here, and if you just really wanted to, you could craft a bulk craft of crafting tables, but I feel like that's kind of unnecessary use of wood at this point, so you can go ahead and do a single craft, and now you have 2 crafting tables. So take one of your crafting tables and queue up as many bulk crafts as you can with your stone. Just be sure to craft your beacon control first so you don't use up all of your rocks like I did. Okay, if you're following along with the tutorial and if you've done a little extra gathering, you'll probably be level 4 right about now. So you can collect your rewards. You might have to collect a first round of rewards and then it'll probably level you up. So now we have enough skill points to get our 5 power. Certainly if you notice that you leveled up to level 3 and you're placing your 2 points, you won't be able to get to 5 power. So you can put at least 1 more point into Dexterity, and then I'd go ahead and put the rest into power. You just won't get the benefit of reducing your hits by 1 because you don't quite have that 5 power. But this is kind of what we're shooting for. By level 4 is 5 power, 3 dexterity. By now your stones will be done crafting and you can start considering making stone equipment. As you can see, the game does a fantastic job at splitting your attention between rock, wood, and foliage. So again, that's why you want to go a more generous route at first, unless you're playing in a group that can specialize. Okay, if you're like me and you have a pet spitter hanging out, you can try to dig a pit. It's a little bit risky because you could very well end up just hitting the spitter, but you should be able to kill him just fine with your tools. But if you want to avoid taking damage, this is another option. You come down here and gather some of these blocks, jump out, and then seal him in. And there we go, we don't have to really worry about him shooting us immediately when we level up to level 6. Okay, and as you continue to level, you can continue to put points into Dexterity to speed up gathering even more. At least while you're using stone tools, you really have no hope of going any faster with power. Certainly with iron and some more points into something like Hammer Mastery, and you might be able to one-shot rock on homeworlds, but for now 5 power is the best we can get. As far as dexterity, you don't necessarily have to max it out, but each point will make you go faster, so kind of up to you of how much you want to put into dexterity. 6 points would probably be a pretty good place to stop if you're not going to max it out. Okay, once you get some stone tool crafted, you probably would want to bulk craft hammers and axes. You can kind of hold off on shovels for the time being because it probably won't be doing just a whole lot of digging in dirt, but you probably would want to go ahead and get at least 1 sling bow. You could do a bulk craft if you really want to, but it's not super important. But go ahead and equip your new equipment. If you still have a wood hammer, you can go ahead and use it up, or you could just throw it away, which is pretty much what I do. And if you have a spitter in a hole and you're tired of hearing him run around like I am, certainly now you could open it up and get rid of him now that you have a appropriate weapon. Very nice. And by now they're probably wanting you to go to the journal and start picking out your own objectives. And this is pretty much the point where I generally say goodbye to the tutorial and just do what I want to do. But you can certainly humor the tutorial, go out and gather some grass for kicks, place it down, and work on your base just a little bit. But yeah, I don't plan on staying here long term, so I really don't want to sink any time into building anything. So I probably will just ignore that for now. And now that you have stone tools, it's time to go mining. So you need at least 1 piece of flint from mining rock to be able to make a furnace. And then you can start gathering some copper, which is going to allow you to make a workbench. And if at any time you forget what you need to be able to craft something, you can always hit K and you can see all of the recipes that you currently know how to make. So if we switch the filter over to functional, we'll be able to see the crafting machines and workbench. So yes, we will need 3 base metal. So that means 3 copper ore along with 3 coal to smelt it. Okay, so I just hit level 6 and I'm pretty much ready to make my first workbench. This presents a particularly interesting point in the game, is that right now I would almost recommend making this character a dedicated crafter and then going and starting a new character, or picking up your previously made character if you made them both back to back and got them vaguely in the same area. Certainly if you are creating a character for the first time, you can hit U, go over to locations, and here you can find their coordinates of what you'll be looking for if you're trying to find your first character. So for here, so basically looking for -2000 north by -1200 east, and yeah, I can either write that down or just memorize it, whichever works for you. And on your new character, you can always come over to locations again and click on custom destination, set destination, and then you simply type in your coordinates. So what did we say? It was -2000 by -1400-ish, and then 65 will generally be the natural water table of the planet, so that should give us a set of coordinates fairly close. Let's see here, yeah, it's just right behind us. So now you have this fancy waypoint and all you have to do is walk towards it, and naturally it's not exactly on my base, but this would get me fairly close to this journal area, and yeah. And optionally, if you just really didn't want to use one of your 3 skill resets to spec as a crafter or whatnot, you could use your other character to make a crafter, or you could slowly use your cleanse points to unlearn your skill points to then respend into crafting. This will slow you down on being able to craft certain things, especially being able to use volume crafting. But it is an option, it's just going to be a slower one. But level 6, we can come down here, reset our skill points, and put 1 point into this top row. These first 3 points will allow you to make copper and iron versions of tools, weapons, and tech. So that's going to be grapples, of course sling bows, and the standard tools. You want to pick up the decoration crafting because that's going to allow you to make a better torch, which is very handy for exploring caves, machine crafting to craft more advanced machines, and you want to come down here and use your last 5 skill points on volume crafting. This will allow you to mass craft things as well as queue up 20 things per machine and use 50% less wear of the machine itself. So that is a no-brainer for any crafter. And the next time you level up, one of the things you want to grab is this extra point into machine crafting, and that will allow you to craft all machines except for power coils, and it'll be a long time before you actually will need that 3rd point into machine crafting, so very nice. So you can confirm that, and now you have a tricked out low-level crafter, and you can switch over and essentially repeat this process on your other character and get busy gathering. So this took less than 30 minutes, and yeah, I already have a dedicated crafter and soon to be dedicated gatherer. Okay, so I just created a new character and got him fairly close. I did have to walk across the desert, which apparently is just right over there, and I jumped back onto my first character to give permissions to not only my new character but all my other ones, just in case. But yeah, you can see all of your other characters here and any friends that you might have made along the way. So you can give them permissions, and then I dumped all of my tools into one of the crafting tables so my new character can pick up this stuff and get a even faster start than this first character. But yeah, now we can progress through the crafting. You want to move on to making a furnace, which then will allow you to smelt ore and craft a workbench. And in fact, I've already made a video that details how to go from this very situation right here with a couple of crafting tables and some materials to go all the way from here to crafting your very first warp augment, which will allow you to warp off of the planet and go see other areas. So certainly you can check out that video if you're unfamiliar of how to go through the crafting process. If you are familiar with the crafting process, the bare minimum of what you're going to need to go from crafting tables to a warp augment is going to be 4 trunks, 20 rock, 36 copper, 9 iron, 3 silver, 10 raw meat, 67 coal, 17 tech remnants, 4 tech components, and 3 pieces of flint. So that will be enough to go from nothing but 2 crafting tables all the way through the crafting process to make 1 warp augment. So that is really not that much, and you can gather that fairly quickly. You might be worried about the tech components in silver, but just to give you an example, here's some silver right here. Silver is practically the new copper, at least in the current resource distribution. This could obviously change, but for the time being, it looks like it'll be really easy to find all the things you need to get off the planet. With a little bit of more mining, I could very easily find some tech components, but you can generally find tech components up a little bit higher. Oh wow, there's some more silver, and generally find the silver a little bit deeper. But as you can see, the silver has no problem as spawning at as high as 91, and I found it way up in the mountains as well. So yeah, you can find this stuff just about anywhere. And so there you go, there is early game like a boss. So you now have an excellent foundation for propelling yourself far into the game, and yeah, pretty awesome. Anyway, I think that covers this early leveling guide pretty well. This was Javita, thanks for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more like this, and if there's anything you didn't like, please let me know down below. Also, if you like my channel, want to get cool perks, check out my Patreon page. Until next time, peace.